Greetings, everyone. I'm glad that you could all join us for this virtual Dean's Roundtable. My name is Christopher Puto, and I'm the Dean of the University of St. Thomas Opus College of Business, and I'll be moderating today's discussion about part-time MBA programs. This is the third virtual roundtable I've had the pleasure of hosting this year. The previous discussions, which have focused on high-value programs and faith-inspired programs, respectively, have been insightful, lively events, and I anticipate more of the same today. Our goal is to hold a productive conversation that gives each of you an opportunity to showcase your own experiences and perspectives. I'd like to take a moment to let each of you introduce yourselves before we get to the discussion topics. Well, why don't we begin with Dean Phillips, followed by Dean Hendrickson, and then Dean Ryan.
Hello, I'm Joe Phillips. I'm Dean of the Albers School of Business and Economics at Seattle University.
Hi, I'm Anthony Hendrickson. I'm Dean of the Heider College of Business at Creighton University.
Hello, my name is Rob Ryan, and I'm Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs at DePaul University.
Thank you all. And with that, I think we can begin the discussion. Now, again, please feel free to speak up at any time with comments, as we hope this will be an open dialogue. Here's my first question. With the proliferation of part-time MBA programs nationally, what should a prospective student consider when trying to sift through so many options? Who'd like to take a shot at that? Dean Ryan, would you like to give it a shot?
Certainly. I think first and foremost it comes down to employer support. What is the employer going to, how will the employer assist the student either through tuition reimbursement or through advancement after completion? And I think that's a big part of what students look for when they come to graduate school, particularly graduate management education. They're looking for a bonus after completion. And I think that the programs that are best able to assist with that would be, for that particular student, would be the best fit.
Dean Phillips, anything like to add to that?
Well, I'd say a couple things. I think, first of all, it's probably a very regional market that you have choices from. Most people are working full-time, going to school part-time. They don't have a lot of flexibility in terms of location, so that narrows down the search for them, of course. In addition to employer support, many schools offer some financial aid, so you want to know what those options are. I think you want to be trying to talk to current students or graduates to hear what they have to say about a program. I think you want to be asking about the alumni network of that school and what it can do for you once you graduate. If you're looking to switch jobs, I think you need to be asking about the placement services for graduate students and how effective they are. And you also, of course, it's an investment, so you want to make sure that you're looking at the time and money you're putting into it and what's the payoff on that and how long does it take for you to earn back your investment.
How about you, Dean Hendricks?
Well, I think those are great points. The thing that I guess I would add is that heretofore it's really been described, and the market's been defined more regionally, depending upon whether or not you're in Chicago or Minneapolis or whatever particular locale. But with the growing proliferation of very good online options, that market's expanding, and so I think students are now afforded more opportunities, but with more choices comes kind of a more difficult selection process of how do I go about a program, one that perhaps if I'm an engineer looking for an MBA, I may gravitate to a program more like Purdue because I like you know, what Purdue stands for is the Creighton School and some of those things. If I'm interested more in finance or accounting, I may gravitate to a program that's stronger in that. Some people are really looking for the very best program from a ranking standpoint that they can get into. Other people are just trying to kind of get a degree and make sure that they get a solid footing to improve themselves. So I think as more online options avail themselves for the audiences that we're trying to attract, there's going to be more challenges for those students to decide what they're actually going to, how they're going to select a program.
Well, those are three extraordinarily insightful points across all of you. And there's not much I can add, but I'm going to take a shot at it anyway, because I wouldn't be a dean if I didn't have it. But a couple of things as I think was Joe mentioned, it's a pretty big investment. Even if your employer is helping, there's time investment and money investment and commitment for people going to a part-time program. And so it's really an educational experience that each student is seeking. And whatever helps them understand the nature of the experience that a particular school is going to deliver would probably be helpful in the decision. So one of my thoughts is how to do that is to see if you can attend a class as a guest and get some experience. What's it like to commute to the campus or commute to the web if that's where you are? And what's it feel like to be in that kind of a class? And that will give someone the sense, because we're all, I think, talking about 50-plus credit programs in these evening MBAs, and that's a pretty big commitment. So thank you for your insights. That's very helpful. I've got another question that I thought we'd try. And this is a really hot one. What unique value does your program bring, especially for the working professional student? How about if I start with Dean Phillips and roll on from there?
Okay, well, the first thing, we of course commit ourselves to academic excellence and rigor and application of principles, but at the same time we want to provide flexibility to our students, because it's a very difficult thing to pull off a part-time MBA program, because you're trying to balance work and you're trying to balance family obligations and you're trying to balance school. So, you know, we like to think that we know that market and that student pretty well, and we do a good job of that balance between the academics but also the flexibility. Secondly, as a Jesuit institution, I'm sure Tony's going to say the same thing. All of us are going to say the same thing, actually. A big commitment to ethics and social responsibility and sustainability that you don't find in most MBA programs. I'm sure we'll find it on all 4 of ours, but it's not always out there. So things like, you know, what is the purpose of business? Questions like that will get discussed in our programs, but not maybe in others. I think an advantage we think we have is our location in Seattle. So even though location isn't supposed to matter as much as it did in the past, it still does. There's obviously lots of iconic companies here in Seattle, like Boeing and Starbucks, but also lots of startups, of course, and everything in between. And we're not just in Seattle, but we're very close to downtown Seattle, so I think that's an advantage for us, too, in terms of students getting to campus, getting guest speakers to campus, getting people in our mentor program, or getting projects for students to work on. It just really helps to be in our specific part of town, not just to be in the town. And then finally, we put a focus on leadership, and not just anyone's version of leadership, but leadership in service to others, which I think is probably true for all 4 schools in this discussion. You know, leadership with purpose, leadership to serve society is another important aspect of our program.
Thank you very much. Let's go down to Dean Hendrickson and give us the background on Creighton.
About 7 or 8 years ago, one of the things that we did was change our curriculum. And we had a fairly structured and staid curriculum that required everybody to take the same courses in lockstep, and we've gone completely away from that, kind of let the pendulum swing to the other extreme. We customize a curriculum for each student. So each student has to do an interview, and based upon what that student's background is and what their aspirations are from a career standpoint, we then try to craft a curriculum that's designed specifically for them. So we really only have 3 courses that we absolutely require, and that's a strategy course, because we think that strategy is the essence of an MBA. Obviously, being a Jesuit school and a faith-based school, we think that business ethics is imperative, and so we see that. And then we also think that everybody can be a better leader no matter who you are, and so we require a leadership course. After that, we're really interested in what you've done from an academic and an experience standpoint and what you desire to do, and try then to craft a curriculum that is essentially a bridge from what you've done to what you want to do, and create that bridge there for you to make it, because we're really sensitive that people in part-time programs have an extreme opportunity cost with their time, and the last thing we want them to do is to basically take a class that they go, well, I didn't get much out of that. because it not only is a lot of money, but it's a lot of their time too.
Thank you. I'm now interested to hear how you do it at DePaul, Dean Ryan, given what we just heard.
Well, we're in a position here, we're large enough that we can offer over 30 concentrations and 15 MS programs. So what we offer is choice and flexibility. A student could be full-time day, part-time evening, full-time evening, attend on the weekend, attend at several campuses throughout the Chicago area. And I think that's very important because, as everyone is noticing and saying, students are very busy, there's an awful lot going on in their lives. Time is important, commute time is important, and in a city like Chicago where commute times can run into the hours, being closer to the student's office or home, depending on which way the student likes to go, is important. So what we offer really is flexibility and choice. We also are able to do that at a price that's pretty good. And that's because of the size, really. We've still got the small class sizes, but we have enough student in terms of head count to provide us the critical mass that we can offer a very wide range of choices to students. And I think that they find that very helpful to them as they try to specialize in areas or learn more about things that happen in companies that are local here or where they work, whether they're switching careers, switching companies, switching industries, what have you. We've got something that they can take advantage of to learn more about that and prepare better for that experience that's coming for them.
Well, so if I got it right, I've heard different forms of flexibility from our schools. I've heard a sense that leadership and ethics permeates everyone's course offerings, and the idea that we want people to understand that business has a bigger role in society than merely only making a profit, but making a difference too. I think I've summarized what I heard from the three of you. And here at St. Thomas, we have an interesting circumstance. We do have two campuses, one in downtown Minneapolis and one in the suburbs of St. Paul. So there's that flexibility for geographic proximity. And we do follow the same pattern as you all do on ethics and commitment to making a difference in society. Our flexibility is a little different. We do have a solid core that we go through across the basic business disciplines. People can test out of it if they've had the preparation at the previous undergraduate level. And then we try to have flexibility in terms of electives, much as you do. It's very interesting. In Twin Cities, we have a small population, but we have 21 different options for graduate degree programs in business just in our region here. So there's intense competition, and our goal is to stand out different from the competitors in terms of the quality of the education that we offer and the support that we provide each student from a career development standpoint. So I think we've all got something to offer our various areas, and that's exciting. Let me go on to another question, and this will shift gears just a little bit. We pretty much understand that the part-time student values application and practical learning because they're on the job and they're working forward. But why don't we talk about how understanding theory and the relative supporting research behind that theory, does that still matter in an MBA education? And this time let me start with Dean Ryan.
Absolutely, it matters. Theory is the foundation. We have to start there. And the reason is because we might know practitioner programs that teach students how to do things that are done in business or done in industry, what have you. But what we're trying to teach students is how to think, not what to think, how to frame problems and how to frame questions, whether it's about accounting, economics, finance, management, or ethics, ethical concerns in any of those areas. So without theory, we don't have a framework from which to build our questions of inquiry and to build that application that comes from that study of the matter at hand. And so without theory to guide us, we really are just nothing more than an applied program, which is not going to teach a person how to lead. It'll teach a person how to follow what someone else has said before. And we want to teach people how to lead.
Understood. Let's go to Dean Phillips. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I have a similar view. I think it does matter. I think, first of all, application presumes theory, because what are you applying? You have to apply the theory. So you have to start with the theory. I think one of the important things it brings has already been mentioned, namely it gives you a way to frame issues. So the theory helps you in your problem solving around a particular issue because it provides that framework. And finally, in some instances, there's multiple theories about a particular issue or problem, and it allows you multiple ways to frame your approach to a problem you're trying to solve.
All right. Dean Hendrickson, how'd you like to wrap it up?
I would concur with what my colleagues have said. The other thing I would say is within Jesuit education, one of the hallmarks is reflection, and I'm sure within the DePaul and St. Thomas, reflection's a part of that as well. But when you stop to think about reflecting, if you don't have a theoretical basis and a deep understanding of what your benchmark is from a theory standpoint, you have no way to reflect and decide how was my application relative to what it should have been. And so I think that gives us a benchmark in which we can use as a standard then to reflect upon how well we actually performed against some theoretical basis for our actions.
Very good. As you can see, as anyone who would be observing this, our schools all have our faculty who are extraordinarily talented scholars, and they understand exactly what they're doing in an educational context. And the way we approach this is that we position theory as understanding why things work, and practice as understanding how things work. So if you don't know why things are supposed to be the way they are, you can't diagnose a problem and you can't solve it. But if all you can do is come up with a solution and you don't know how to implement your solution, you're only halfway there and you haven't accomplished anything. And we wrap this together and say that theory plus practice equals relevance. And we've positioned ourselves as the relevant program in the Twin Cities. That's our approach to this. Let me now talk about another different approach to things, which is the impact of technology on teaching and course formats, such as online delivery, which Dean Hendrickson mentioned earlier, and blended learning. And how has that expanded accessibility for students with busy careers and families? Let me start with Dean Hendrickson this time.
Well, at Creighton, we have a pretty extensive experience with online education in a couple of fronts. As an institution, about 12 to 14 years ago, we started an online pharmacy program in which you could actually become a pharmacist at a distance. There's like a 6-week period in the summers that you have to come and do some things. But we pioneered that. And what the interesting thing that we found is that when you really have good quality, and of course you have to have quality standards in something like pharmacy because you have licensing exams, etc. We've actually found that many of our online students do better on licensing exams than our face-to-face students. So we borrowed from some of that. We have in the College of Business, in the Heider College of Business, we have a Masters of Security Analysis and Portfolio Management program that is all online. And what we've found is in programs and in disciplines where the answers are very objective and less subjective, it works much better. So obviously you can see in pharmacy it's a very objective answer. You got the compound corrector, you didn't. Our Masters in Security Analysis program is more akin to that than maybe a leadership program because it is really about preparing for all 3 levels of the CFA exam. And there's a variety of ways you can approach a problem, but essentially there's one good correct answer that's objective in that. And so for those kinds of things, we think that that's possible. And we've tried to then blend that into some of our other curriculum, looking for those opportunities where there's objective kinds of material we're trying to share with students. So in blended courses, we use that for those more objective kinds of measures. And then where there's subjective kinds of things, we tend to maybe meet together and have, or at least have synchronous discussions to be able to cover some of those things.
Okay, well, Dean Phillips, you've got a pretty fancy software company out where you hang out. Has that had any impact? How do you approach this technology delivered education?
Well, we're taking our own path. So I think the path that we're going is more towards a blended approach rather than something like 100% online for some of the reasons that Tony mentioned. Namely, there's certain parts about an MBA program that are very difficult to pull off strictly using an online approach. And the interesting thing for us is that as we've tried to roll out more of a hybrid approach in our MBA program, we've gotten a lot of pushback from our current students. They're really very adamant about the value of that other students bring to the classroom, and the kind of the face-to-face experience is very important to them. So we've been trying to navigate that, but still try to move, because we really don't think that today's students necessarily tell us about tomorrow's students and what they'll expect and anticipate. So we're moving to a hybrid. We're not going to the 100% online approach. We see going to hybrid as another element of flexibility. So if we pride ourselves as a flexible program, we really need to move in that direction, we think. On the other hand, there's some really good things about hybrid that I think will actually improve the quality of our program. Certainly, it's not like face-to-face, but there's a lot of activities that do well online and give students more time to reflect and work on them at their own pace. So in the end, they may get more out of it. Another advantage is that some students are not as participative in the classroom, but maybe more so in an online environment. So you get more participation out of them and more processing from them. So we think there's a couple of elements that are positive, and that hybrid or blended will be the direction for us.
Very good. Let me now go to Dean Ryan, and how are things looking in DePaul?
Well, for the MBA program, we have a hybrid program. It's a weekend program, and that's worked pretty well for us. But our experience is similar with the others in that the MBA program contains a number of courses that are not conducive to online learning or as conducive as we would like. And we find that most of our students are really seeking a face-to-face experience in most of the courses, but not all of them. So they may wish to take a few courses of a certain type, perhaps the accounting or the finance, or even some of the management courses, depending on what their background is, and then take the rest of them where they feel there's be a richer experience online with the faculty. And so we've got this system now where we have the core online, and in doing that, what we've done is ensured that students who have terms where they can't attend as frequently as they would like, or have to be out of state for a period of time, will be able to continue their program at no risk, but the bulk of the program is here for them face-to-face as they would wish to have it. Now, we've got students who are more mobile these days. They're being transferred to other companies, and they're trying to finish their degree that they started with us, and they may be off in California or New York. And this is where the online helps us, because we can tell a student who starts with us that we'll be able to finish with them without too much concern for transfers and things of that sort. Even so, those students who have the opportunity to take the online courses, by and large, prefer the face-to-face. And so I think this is going to be with us for a time. There is a real value in being in class with students, talking all together with the faculty, moderating the discussion and introducing topics and managing those discussions. And students find a lot of value in that. And I don't see that going away. That said, the technology is a very solid assistant, and it makes things go better in a lot of ways. The presentations that we can do, the research that we can do, much better than they were back when I was in school, of course. But in terms of an all-online experience, we're not going that way yet, just because there hasn't been demand for it among the students that we draw.
I find this very interesting as I listen to the three of you. We're very much on target with each of your approaches to this. We don't have any purely online programs, And actually, we have not yet reached where we have any purely online courses. We have a program that focuses on healthcare in an MBA setting, and that's a blended one where people come for a short time on campus, and then they finish the program, the course online, and then start over with another one. In our other part-time program, MBA, we have options where some of the courses are in fact blended, but the same course is offered completely on campus as well. So students, if they have a semester, as you've identified, with a lot of travel or something like that, they may opt for the blended course versus the fully in-person. Interestingly, we're finding the exact same response that all of you have articulated in your discussions. There is something very special about the physical presence of students and an instructor in the classroom to deal with issues and content live as it happens. And I think that bodes well for the educational experience for everyone. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to distinguish between technology-delivered education and technology-enhanced education. And we're hopeful that we can use technology even in the face-to-face course offerings, as I'm sure all of your professors are doing the same thing, to increase the experience that the students have outside the classroom without diminishing anything that goes on inside the classroom. And it's going to be interesting, I think, for all of us in this discipline, in this profession, to watch how this evolves. Other schools are trying different approaches, and I think we have to let them do that. But our experience has been very common across all 4 of our schools, that students want to be in class with a professor, and they want to be with other students and interact. So thanks for that insight. I've got another question, and this one is a quite interesting question. Some might describe part-time MBAs as a lesser academic experience than a full-time program. How would you respond to that? And then let me start with Dean Hendrickson on this one.
I think that's kind of an old myth and a bias that people I think have, thinking that it's only a real program if you quit your job and go away for 2 years and reinvent yourself. And I don't think that most of the people see that anymore. I think that the quality of part-time programs has improved. I think that many of the people in part-time programs bring a wealth of experience to the classroom discussion and the experience, and the ability of students to learn from their colleagues who are actively involved in the management of other companies while they're in the MBA program actually enhances it much more than people who are basically full-time students in an MBA program.
All right. How about Dean Phillips? How about you?
I would agree with Tony. Absolutely not. Is it a lesser academic experience? I think the most important advantage you have in the part-time program is the experience that your colleagues and your peers have in the classroom. That becomes a very important part of your education, and you just don't have that in full-time MBA programs. Secondly, it's also up to you as a student to get the most out of the program. So all of our programs have what I would call co-curricular activities that are very valuable, and you shouldn't limit yourself just to coming to class, because there's speaker series. We have a mentor program that's a very positive experience for students. There's student organizations. So you really have to get involved in the life of the school and the campus to get the most out of it. And even though there's you're trying to balance work, family, and school, you really should make an effort to take advantage of everything that's there for you in a business school. So I would say that it can actually be a better experience for you than a traditional program.
All right. Dean Ryan, you had mentioned a variety of options at DePaul for these different categories. So take us through how you see the difference between what a part-time program does versus a full-time.
Well, I would have to agree with what's been said already with regard to the differences. Primarily, they're social, I think. The full-time day programs put a lot of students of approximate work experience, same level of work experience together, and they go through a very rigorous program, and they come out together at the end. And the difference in the value could only be in the social aspects of being back in school with a bunch of professionals and working through problems and working on teams together to accomplish those goals. Now, that said, as mentioned before, the part-time programs have all built these things into their experience, and we certainly have in ours. And so I'd be hard-pressed to say that the experience is lesser. In fact, presently, there are a couple programs with high work experience that we offer that we're very careful to maintain at high work experience levels, and those can be a much stronger experience because you'll have the deeper discussions, you'll have the greater crosstalk across job types and performances and such in the cohort programs that we offer. So I would not say that it's a lesser academic experience by any means. It is very different, though. For the person who's at the beginning of their career, the full-time program makes sense. But for people who have been out a while, I think the part-time is the possibly even the better choice because of the options available, the sorts of people you're in class with, and the social opportunities that come along with all of that we've all built into our programs these days.
I think this is interesting to hear the very similarities in terms of perspective across what I've listened to each of you say, and we're probably right in with you on that. I would say that the knowledge base that one gets from either a part-time or a full-time MBA program is extraordinarily comparable. You're going to know the same things and do the same things either way. That's what makes an MBA what it is. At our school, the difference is, and Dean Ryan referred to this word, is different in experience. So if you quit your job and you're going full-time, this is your new job, and you have this deep involvement experience. On the other hand, if you have a job and a family and you're going to school part-time, you bring pieces of that with you into the classroom. And so these are working professionals. They are experiencing in their day-to-day lives things that we try to simulate in a full-time program for those students. So that's why I think the experience is different. But as each of you have identified, the knowledge base, the capabilities, and the quality of the education is certainly not at all compromised by one going part-time versus full-time. The only thing I might differentiate would be much the same as language. Learning a new language involves, you can do it through different approaches, and one approach is the immersion experience versus doing it over time. And I would analogously say that the full-time program is equivalent to immersion, whereas the part-time program is the ability of learning it while you're doing it. Either way, the quality of the knowledge base is unmatched. So we've done, actually, you guys are impressive in terms of how we've approached all this. I've got one more. This is a fun one, though. Are there any final comments that each of you would like to make, in particular about your school and about how you see the impact of part-time MBA programs going forward? And let's start. Let me start with Dean Phillips, and then I'll go to Dean Ryan and end up with Dean Hendrickson. So, Dean Phillips?
Well, we're very excited about the new curriculum we're rolling out for our part-time MBA program. We've created an integrated core experience for the students that stretches over 3 academic quarters. So we're in the quarter system, not the semester system. And students are taking 2 tracks throughout the quarter. So one is an analytical track, one is a managerial track. And it's not one faculty member coming in to teach for the whole quarter. Each of those courses will have 3 or 4 different faculty members coming in as part of that course in that particular quarter. And then after that, you've got sort of the approach that Tony talked about, a lot of electives, more electives in our new program than our old program. which allows the students to pursue their passion or else to make up for the deficiencies they think they have in terms of different courses they should take. So, we think that this new approach responds to a couple of changes in the market. One is that students want more control over the curriculum, want more electives, basically. But also, we sense that our part-time students want more of a cohort feel. So we think that the core experience is going to create a cohort for them that will last throughout their time with us. So we're excited about that new curriculum that we've just developed.
That does sound exciting and interesting. Now let me go to Dean Ryan.
We're also rearranging the curriculum a little bit. We're adding cohort programs as well. And we're trying to build in a certain amount of personal responsibility in keeping with Catholic education, keeping students considering others as well as themselves as they go through. Among the things that we're trying to accomplish also is to, as always, remain what we would call cutting edge, on the edge of what's happening. We have an energized faculty who are always looking for new opportunities for teaching new material that hasn't been covered yet, to build new things into the curriculum. And we have a system to allow them to create classes very quickly, design courses, deliver them in a almost experimental format when you think of how curriculum is developed. Without addressing or changing the core dramatically. That happens more slowly, as you might imagine. But then on the elective side, we've just split into a 50% required, 50% elective format. And we're looking at trying to bring in a lot more of what's happening outside into the classroom without getting into the practitioner versus theory problem, where we're still coming from a position of theory as it evolves into practice. And with those thoughts in mind, always trying to keep our programs ahead of where we are today, always looking forward. That's really what we try to accomplish.
Thank you. Dean Hendrickson, how about Creighton?
I think, like all of our institutions, we enjoy perhaps the best of both worlds. We all attract more serious students. People typically are not coming to our programs because they're just trying to get a piece of paper and get done and move on. They really want to learn something. They want a value for their education and the time that they're putting in. And so I think we attract those students. So for us, it's trying to think of ways that we can be convenient for them, perhaps use blended courses, use technology to enhance learning, but that we can still meet their needs and be flexible, but do that with students who are truly there, wanting to learn something, wanting to better themselves, and bring that enthusiasm to the classroom. So I think what we're trying to do, what everyone on this particular discussion is trying to do, is be flexible and yet still maintain high academic quality and deal with really great students who are going to be the leaders for business in the future.
Well, I've got to tell you, after listening to this, if I were a prospective MBA student in each of your cities, I'd be signing up for your program. I'll guarantee you that. That's great. What we're doing here is, we're one of the newest among the AACSB accredited schools, and we are totally committed to continuous improvement in the highest order. So our goal is to see what we did last semester and the year before that, and how can we add to that to increase the experience, in particular for our part-time students. We're soliciting a lot of student input and feedback on this, and we are creating we call them co-curricular activities that are convenient enough for even working professionals to be able to do. So it's not something every week, but 2 or 3 times a semester we'll have an event with a speaker and refreshments. And we're trying something on a Friday, believe it or not, for the working professionals. We'll see how that goes. But, I want to, first of all, thank each of you for your participation today. I'm delighted that you could join us, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. So we'll be signing off, but I say thank you, everyone.
Thank you.